If you work in YouTube for any length of time, you will have to deal with a poorly uploaded video. You might be dealing with videos that didn't get a title yet, or it doesn't have its thumbnail, or the video and audio has become completely desynced and you can't explain why that is, but it certainly has happened and now it's out there and you feel a little bit silly. Uploading is not something that we talk about a lot because we like to talk about audience development and strategy, but it is a part of the process, and if you do it wrong, you can harm your video's future performance. So it's definitely important, and since we're talking about things that make sense for a complete beginner, let's talk about how to upload videos for a complete beginner. Before we get into this, I've been liking the relaxed vibe, and I like this room because we can keep all the cameras set up, but it feels weird and impersonal because now we sit at the same desk. So I've brought artifacts from my real desk to feel more at home. This is not a bit. I mean, it is, but these are really desk things. So here's my weird skee ball game that always sits over here. My calendar. I don't write in it. I always mean to. Hasn't happened yet. And then to round off the illusion, part of a packaging that a Sharpie marker came in, and one peanut M&M's wrapper. I will not remember to throw this out later. This will probably somehow find its way actually back onto my actual desk. But now I feel at home, and now we're ready to talk about how to upload for complete beginners. Again, this isn't something that deals deeply with strategy or has like some secret analytics thing that's going on behind the scenes. This is the raw mechanics of uploading a video, but you can, and I certainly have, dealt with videos that were poorly uploaded. One time I was responsible for giving a video metadata and captions, and somebody sent me the link and it was already public. So it was just like, whatever draft force _ final .avi or .mov. And that was a real treat because we just had a bunch of comments being like, yo, what is this? A lot of the comments were just laughing that this video that was clearly didn't have any metadata to it had gone live. And also I was trying to, while furiously correcting this, listen to the video for captions, and it was about StarCraft, so it wasn't like you could just passively listen because you have to remember names like Zeratul and Tassadar. I don't know that that's relevant. Might be too much information. And when something like that happens, we are talking about your video's first minutes or its first hour, and that's when your core audience is most likely to see your video, when it's most likely to get shown to people. So if you mess it up, you can hurt your video. The video that went live that I had to do captions for was a uniquely terrible experience. But if I can help you not have that experience, let's help you not have that experience. So today we want to just outline some best practices and some techniques and some things that you can do to make sure that your uploads go smoothly and that your videos go live and you're confident that they have not messed up in some terrible way. Something of note, when we go to upload a video, we really like to have basically everything that you need for the video. That's the final video itself, and ideally you should really name it final. Whatever it is, final, because if it's not, you can totally mess up and end up uploading a draft that doesn't have everything incomplete. It can be real embarrassing when you have something that just says like placeholder effect. You don't want that. Once you have a final version, name it final. Name it final in all caps so you know it's the final one, and then never upload a video that doesn't say final. Because even if you catch it before it goes live, it really sucks to take like an hour or two to have to take everything down and re-upload it and add everything back in. You don't want to mess with that. Name your final drafts final. You're welcome. We also definitely want the title and the thumbnail if we can have it. It's nice to have tags and descriptions too, but definitely title and thumbnail, and you can just put those right into place. Make sure that when the video is being uploaded, they're all already in the system. So let's assume that you have those things going. Now let's get into the uploading process for complete beginners. So we're gonna go over to this button right here, and we're gonna get upload video, go live, create post. We're going to want to upload a video. Pretty simple, pretty explanatory. Once you've done this once or twice, this is going to feel real straightforward. If you've used a lot of menu-driven things or you've done your own personal social media, a lot of this isn't going to feel wildly out of place, but hopefully we can give you some techniques. So you'll get a screen like this. You can either drag and drop or press select files to open your browser. Doesn't really matter. No big deal either way. I don't have a video that I need to upload, but I'm just gonna, for the sake of this, we'll take a raw video from one of the older videos that I've done. Drop it in here. Going to start uploading totally as is. You're also going to notice that it says saved as a draft right here. That's super helpful. So once you select a file, it's going to look a little bit like this. It's going to give you the basic details of your video. It's going to give you a place to upload your thumbnail. You can start to put it into playlists. You're going to have the, is this made for kids, COPPA compliant stuff. Same thing with, you can restrict it for an adult audience. Some of those you'll need to know, some of these you won't. So we'll go ahead and give this our title, which we should already have. Again, as an example, I'm just going to call this the title we should already have. Usually with descriptions, we'll have like 1 or 2 sentences pre-written out, and then we'll have like a wider body of a description that's much more typical across videos. That can get really annoying to write out. We'll get into how we make that process easier later. But for now, let's just key smash. And typically when it's pre-written, I will just Control-C, Control-V, pop it in there. For the sake of example, there's our very lovely description. Thumbnail, ideally, again, is something that we already have, and we just go ahead and click here and upload the thumbnail. If we have a playlist that this is relevant to, we can go ahead and add it in right here. I only have one playlist, it's Guilty Pleasure Songs. This obviously doesn't fit, but for the sake of example, here it is. And no, you cannot, in fact, see my Guilty Pleasures playlist. If this is a new series, you can also create a new playlist, but whenever you're good here, you just click Done. Then you move on to the compliance stuff. No, this isn't made for kids. No, I don't want to restrict it to just 18 and up. A lot of the other things that will happen at this point when you click like the more options are things that are really, really basic and are prompting you with a pretty simple question and answer format. Does your video include paid promotion? Probably not. You don't have to check the box. Tags are ideally something that you already have. If you don't have tags already pre-written, you can go ahead and write them now. We have videos about tags, and I want to make another video about tags real soon, but it's real simple. You just enter in whatever you want, followed by a comma. So tag, comma, it'll turn into a little bubble. Tags, comma, makes it a bubble. If you have your tags written out ahead of time in a text document and you have word, comma, space, word, comma, space, or phrase, comma, space, it will go ahead and auto-populate like that. We can show that real easy, doesn't take a long time. If you write these out ahead of time, you don't have to think about them in the moment. Super nice, super easy. Go ahead, take it over here to tags, Command V, pops in, populates right away. So this is something that you can do way ahead of time. It's way simpler. Filling in the language of your video is really easy. You definitely don't need me to tell you what language your video is in. If you are not a professional company and you are a complete beginner, you probably don't have to mess with caption certification. And if you do have to mess with caption certification, you probably already know that you have to mess with caption certification. Recording date and location, we don't usually mess with. Haven't seen it provide like a tremendous amount of value. You can go ahead and add it in if you want. You don't need to. The other things that you might want to mess with are category, which is just a drop-down list. You go ahead and say, oh, what is this about? Oh, I guess this is kind of how to in style because it's about programming. Not a big deal. Comments and ratings, feel free to mess with it if you feel strongly about how comments should or shouldn't be allowed on the video. Not a tremendous deal. Once you're done with that, you go ahead and click next, and you'll come to this thing that lets you add in video elements that are really cool. And chances are you can't actually do anything with this page yet because your video is still uploading and it basically needs to be fully processed before this step works, which is really, really frustrating. So we'll go ahead and come back to that. You can click next, you can come back to this later. After you move on, the thing that you will come to is visibility, and this is possibly the most important thing that you want to mess with right away, especially on your first upload. Make your video private. Unless you have a really, really good reason you want to make your video private. When a video is private, it is basically not published. It will basically sit in your account until you do something with it. It won't show up anywhere for any reason unless you give someone specific permission or they are a manager on your YouTube account. This has a couple of advantages. We can freely tweak the video and no one can see it. If we're curious about whether or not a video is going to be able to monetize, we can go ahead and set it private. That determination will happen and no one will have seen the video. We won't have wasted time in our publication before that happened. It sets a lot at ease. If you are a complete beginner, you might understandably ask, well, couldn't I set a video as unlisted too? Because that also doesn't publish to the wider YouTube audience. And that's true, but anyone with the link can see the video. If you're just starting out, there's probably not some rogue out there who's trying to share your video and make it super public against your wishes. But there are a couple of quirks here. For one, unlisted videos do show up in playlists. So if you put your video in a playlist and people are auto-playing through, they can come across your video before you're ready, and that's not a super great look. The other thing about unlisted views is that whether or not you ever list them, after they reach 250 views, they are considered public. So if you're wanting a big momentous publishing moment, you can kind of undercut yourself if you have too many views from unlisted. Unlisted is generally really good for like if you have a bonus video that you don't necessarily want to be like announced to the world or to your subscribers or people who clicked on the notification bell, but you would like it to be available, that's a cool way to do that. Also, if you're working in like a really wide company and you don't want everyone to have access to the account, but you do want some people to give their final approval on it, unlisted links work for that because it's way easier to just share an unlisted link to the 10 or 15 or 20 people that need to see it and see if there's any notes on it from that without having to give every single person access to the video in private. But unless those narrow situations describe you or your video, you should be setting your videos to private. This gives you a chance to go ahead and add in the end screen once the video is done processing. That is basically always how we set our videos. Occasionally, some people will set it as scheduled if it's like way in advance. Like if I know that I want to publish this video 2 days from now, I'm probably going to have time to get to this within the 2 days. So maybe I go ahead and schedule it, but broadly speaking, private. You want to go with private. Once you have basically all of that settled out, you can click save and you can come back to the video later. Once you click save on that, everything that you've done to this point will be saved and you basically have to wait for the video to upload and then process before you can do anything more. Which is honestly the part of this where the skee ball comes in for me. Going for a high score of any points at all. This is wildly difficult. Like as like a skee ball. Oh, there's 30. All right. So if you followed all of those steps in order, you probably thought, wow, some of this is kind of annoying and a pain. And good news, there's a way to circumvent some of the worst parts of it. If you go over to your dashboard and you go all the way down here to settings, you will see a section called upload defaults. And here, if there's any information that's super common between your videos, you can go ahead and add it in so that you don't have to add it in later. Usually the kinds of things that we add here in upload defaults are generic parts of description. So if there's a part of your description that appears in every single video, you'll go ahead and add it here. Now, every time you upload a video, that part will just be there and you can append on the custom parts to it. That way you don't have to keep track of it or copy and paste that part over and over again, which just gets really annoying, trust me. You can also set the visibility to default to private so that you will never accidentally misclick and accidentally make a video public as soon as it's done uploading. This is a great thing to do. Please set your video to default to private. You can also add tags as a default, and while it's okay to add some generic tags, I do try and caution people not to pick a set of tags and then use those for every video. Every video should ideally have some specific tags to that specific video, and you should be thinking about those every single time. If you do too many default tags, eventually you'll find that your videos kind of drift and get really unrelated to your tags, and it'll start to feel really weird when you go back and look at them. So you can add some default tags. Definitely use caution if you do. If you go over to the advanced settings, this helps you set things that probably will be true for basically all of your videos. You can always go ahead and just set your default language if you're always going to be operating in the same language, and you should generally be using the same language every time. That's like a programming thing. It's kind of neither here nor there, but it's usually pretty good to set a default language. You can also go ahead and set your categories so that you just don't have to think about it again. Chances are you're probably only going to be in one category for most of your videos. And if you do have a video that's in a different category, you can just go ahead and change that single video. Pretty easy. You can set it up so that some of the annoying parts of uploading a video only have to be done once, and that's quite nice, and I encourage that you take full advantage of it. So at this point, I had expected that the video would be done processing. That appears to not be the case. So rather than spinning my wheels with this, we're gonna try and go back to the main little monster channel and see if it will let me finally access some of the stuff there. Depending on how long your video is, you might still be waiting for it to process at this point. If you're still processing, go ahead and wait. When it is fully processed, if you go over to your YouTube studio and you come down here to the content tab, you should see it listed in your content tab. And you can go ahead and get back to everything with the little pencil icon, which is the details icon. From there, we can go ahead and start doing the last things that we need to do to get a video ready for upload. Once a video has been processed, there's a couple things that we like to do. First off is check the video. You can actually click on it now and watch it and make sure that it actually works, that the audio is synchronized, that the file didn't get corrupted somehow. That's not a big occurrence. It doesn't happen often, but it's always good to at least go through and spot check and just make sure that there wasn't some weird technical error that happened between when you exported the video and you published it. This can also help you catch something like if the video version was the wrong version and you didn't upload the final version, which again, should hopefully not happen if you name your video final. This is an already published video. We've already gone ahead and checked. I'm not actually going to spend time checking a video that would have already been checked. Something to keep in mind is if you're checking your video, it might be in a really crappy resolution, and that's okay, that's pretty natural. If the video just got done processing, like it was just done processing in the last 5 minutes or so, it's only going to be processed in standard definition, which means it's not going to be available in 1080p or 720p for a while, or heaven forbid if you have 4K, that can take a while to process. So if it looks okay, but just at a low resolution, that's probably fine. If your video looks okay, come back to this page, and you're going to want to go, instead of on details, you're going to want to click on editor. You're going to get a screen that looks something like this. The thing that we're wanting to do here is adding an end screen, which is this icon right here. You're gonna go ahead and you're going to click plus. Typically, this will usually look a little bit thinner. We've already added end screen elements, and what's gonna happen is it's going to warp you over to the last 20 seconds of your video, and you're gonna be able to go ahead and add in different elements. What those elements are and how you choose to use them is going to be different from channel to channel, and we're definitely going to talk about it, but this is the place that you'll do this. It's usually one of the very last things you do because it's one of the last things you can do. When you're adding or editing, you're going to get a screen like this that shows you the available space. It's showing you the elements that you added. You can go ahead and choose what timeline to go with them. Most of these are pretty easy to alter just by going ahead and dragging and dropping. You can resize things right here. You can go over here to change when they're going to show up in the video and when they're going to go away. Although keep in mind, you can only do them in the last 20 seconds. You can go ahead and change what the elements are actually pointing to, so you can change the playlist, and you can actually do this after a video uploaded too, so if you ever want to go back in time and change one. But for complete beginners, you're going to want to come over here, you're going to want to press the plus button, you're going to go ahead and pick something, let's say video in this case. It's going to show up here, you're going to click on that, and you can set with these settings. You can say, hey, make this YouTube's idea of best for viewer, and make it last a little less long. Let's say it comes in at 22. This is just for the sake of example. I'm not doing that for a strategic purpose, and I'm not actually going to save these changes. Once you've gone ahead and added end screen elements, you're going to want to click save. If you try and leave, it will ask you if you want to save the changes or discard them. It won't let you leave without choosing one of those. Go ahead and click save if you're happy with it. Because this video is already uploaded, I'm not actually going to save the changes here. I'm going to discard them. And then we can go back to details. Once we go back to details, we should have set everything by now. We should have our title, our descriptions, our tags, our thumbnail. Our video should be uploaded and checked. We've put end screens again in. We are ready to publish. So now, depending on if you want to publish right away, right now, or you want to schedule it, you're going to want to come over here to visibility, which should hopefully say private if you didn't want your video published yet. Click on that. You can choose to make it public. You can go ahead and schedule it, and that just designates a time that it will switch over to public and be published then. Typically speaking, we like to have these in advance just in case anything comes up or there's any changes that need to be made, so we usually stick with schedule. But if you're really wanting to upload right now and it's really down to the wire, you can go ahead and click public and then click save changes, and that will set it live. And that is basically everything that you need to do to publish a video. It's pretty straightforward. It doesn't have to be intimidating, but you do really want to set up a routine and try and do things in the same order every time so that you don't forget things. And unless you have a really good reason, you really want to start with your videos private, you really want to make sure that the video works, you want to make sure that you have the right thumbnail, you want to make sure that you're happy with the end screens, and have some time to set up all of that before you actually go and click the publish button. And if you do that every time and you get into the habit of it early, you will drastically reduce the chances that you will do something catastrophically stupid with your uploads. And there you have it. That's basically everything that you need to know about uploading videos for complete beginners. I sincerely hope this video has been helpful. And with that, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, we have some other great videos on audience development and other great videos for complete beginners. If you like this video, be sure to leave a like to let us know that you enjoyed it and want to see more like it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Little Monster for more videos on audience development every single week. See you next time. I am actually going to remember to throw this out. I'm gonna go turn off the camera, throw this out, and then come back and then strike the set. Because I get made fun of. And not without reason, like I really am bad about it. It's a flaw.